All right, great. Thanks for your patience. We had a little technical difficulties, but it is great to be with you, and we're sharing with you a program tonight called Information Night on Facebook Live, and we're coming to you from BC High. My name is Father Nolan, and we're going to get started introducing you to a couple of folks from our Arrupe division, and we're going to talk about educating boys and what's kind of the special recipe here at BC High. What is our culture all about? And so to get us started, I'll introduce our guests, Mr. Bob Hamlet and Ms. Katie McKiernan, and welcome to the show. Maybe you could each introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'm Bob Hamlet. I'm the head of the middle school at BCI, head of the Arrupe division.
And I'm Katie McKiernan. I joined BC High in 2015, and I have been teaching math and French in Arrupe during that time.
Great. Well, Bob, maybe you could start us off talking about, we're focusing on, until 8 o'clock, where we're going to be focusing on our 7th and 8th grade. And what is it about, when you think of academics, what is it from your perspective of how is it that we focus on how boys learn with academics?
One of the fun things about being in an all boys school is that ability to just to focus on boys and really try to figure out who they are, what makes them tick. Sometimes people think, oh, if you're at a boys school, all the boys are going to be the same. They're going to be cookie cutter. And that's certainly not true. We have every type of boy I can imagine, but we have a great group of teachers and staff at BCI, and particularly in the Arrupe division, who just like working with middle school boys and love the challenge of trying to figure out how to connect with each individual, try to figure out what the passions of each individual is and how they do well, and get them to be their best. Now, in general, I think we recognize, and one of the things we really like about the boys is they come to school with a tremendous amount of energy, excitement about learning, excitement about being in school. Not every day, not every moment of the day, but certainly that energy is there. And rather than trying to squash that energy, we really try to use it. We recognize they have it, and we recognize what we can do to get the most out of it. And sometimes, we do certainly things at school because we recognize the boys have the energy. So we have a couple breaks in the day where they're going to get outside. They're going to get a chance to run around. We have things like PE classes. But I think even more so in the academic sphere, there's a recognition that movement's going to be important, whether that's moving the desks and moving them around to different places, which we can't always do this year, but in a normal year we would be doing. But having the guys do more active learning, whether that's debating, whether it's doing experiments, whether it's role playing, doing simulations, speaking more in a language class, all of those things because of two reasons. One, we think academically it's helpful for them to be actively learning, but also we recognize that that's how boys socialize. They socialize by doing things with other guys. That's how they make friends. That's how they build those great friendships. Katie can talk a little bit about how that works in the classroom.
Yeah. So I think some of the things that you say really resonate with my daily experience, Bob. The energy that you mentioned, and really a culture of learning and joy that the boys bring into the classroom. I think about the way that my 8th graders enter the room. And this year with the cameras on the front and the back of the wall, there's kind of like a mirror image. And they'll take turns jumping in front of the screen to see their mirror image go back and forth. And then it's time for class and they sit down and they take out their iPads and their notebooks and they get to work. And so there's this duality of this real enthusiasm for being in a space, and also that's partnered with some real academic rigor. And I think by pushing them academically and by pushing them to be who they are as individuals, we're really looking to recognize each of them, to see them for who they are, but to also push them a little bit further.
Katie, you were talking today, we were talking earlier about kind of knowing the students, what are 7th and 8th graders into collectively, but then also knowing them as individuals. Can you speak a little bit more?
Sure. So I think anytime I'm designing a lesson or thinking, how can I get the kids involved in this conversation? If I throw out something about hockey or baseball, I'm going to get a large majority of the kids who might connect to that. But I also look out at my classroom and I see a gymnast, and I see someone who does taekwondo, and I see someone who plays the guitar and someone who plays the cello. And recognizing that each of those is a gift that is in our community, and being able to connect on that level individually I love the size of Arrupe because I do feel like we have enough students that we can offer some really great programming, but we have few enough students that we get to know them for who they are and what their individual interests are. And I think I see all of the teachers doing that. They'll say, oh, my English teacher thought I would like this book, or my social studies teacher recommended this article. And so just being able to see the way that all of their teachers are connecting is a really nice thing with the variety of interests that they have.
Bob, maybe you could share a little bit about what are those different clubs, those co-curriculars, the variety of sports and ways to get involved in the arts as well that we have here.
Yeah, and we see in the Arrupe division, again, it's that the opportunities they have, to try something out or to do something they really love, to find something they didn't even know about and fall in love with that. We have 13 different interscholastic sports, so that's what a lot of our guys will do. Some of them will do a sport they've never done before. We have guys who are doing rowing and never done that before, or cross country, or try out for track and field, or tennis, things like that they haven't done. Other guys have done those things for a long time. We have guys who do the play every year. We usually have a musical. We get guys that get into other pieces of the musical program. And then we also offer a lot of just activities or clubs, and some of those happen either before or after school. We also know that some guys might not want to make that choice between the club after school and the sport, so we also offer some clubs during the middle of the day. We have a flex period that usually the guys have a couple days a week, and during that flex period, they get to try out some other activities. And a lot of this is, we want them to have new experiences. We want them to laugh, to win, to lose, to be serious or silly, but mostly to make friends and to learn a little bit about themselves. And often the clubs and the sports at this age, they don't have the commitment and the gravity of what a junior may be doing a few years from now. But those opportunities build that foundation so that a 7th or 8th grader can grow into that committed junior who might win an award at a Model UN conference, or is elected state governor at Youth and Government, or might lead the swim team to a state championship. And that starts by him trying new things in 7th and 8th grade and going into the high school with that attitude of, I'm going to try something new and I'm going to see what it's like.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, Bob, if I could chime in, I actually saw that this morning. So one of the students in my homeroom tried student council for the first time today. And it was just great to see him walk in after having gone to that meeting. And he said, Ms. Kieran, I went to student council. And it was something that he kind of yesterday had joked, oh, maybe someday I'll be class president. And I think that spark in 7th and 8th grade is something that it's so essential to capture and to push in these boys. So grateful that they have those opportunities, but also that they're in an environment that's pushing them to try new things.
Yeah, I could think of my own experience. That first step is the toughest one, and to have a bunch of teachers that know you really well is so helpful. Just want to welcome everyone who's joining us, and if you have any questions, you could type it into the comments on Facebook, and we'll get to your question. Any question you might have. You can also ask plenty of questions this Sunday if you'd like to join us for our virtual open house here at BC High, and you can email us at enrollment@bchigh.edu to find out more, or go right to bchigh.edu, and it'll be the first pop-up you see on our webpage. But speaking, Katie, about how our teachers know our students and what makes them tick and what makes those individuals tick, in terms of tapping into the energy of boys, as Bob mentioned, how do we get our students, what's part of the recipe in terms of getting them feeling comfortable expressing their feelings or their thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love about our program in Arrupe is advisory. And so I work with a group of 12 8th graders that I see them every day that they're on campus for homeroom, and then we have weekly time for advisory. And there's a real structure that the guidance counselors have developed to help us frame conversations for them, because it really is about skill building for them as well. And it's a chance for them to practice having difficult conversations, for them to practice interacting with students that in an intentional way that might not share their view on everything, just to really help them see, okay, I know that I have a lot of energy. I know that for many of them, they can sort of physically demonstrate that energy, but being able to verbally say, this is where I am, this is where I'm struggling, this is where I'm doing really well, and building the toolkit to be able to have those conversations and to be able to express themselves in that way is something that I think is really special.
That's great. And Bob, maybe you could just share a little bit about how you built out the advisory program and how that came about over the years since Arrupe was founded in 2007.
Sure. Yeah, we started right from the first year with an advisory program. So every teacher gets about 10 or 12 students as their advisees. The guidance counselors are really crucial. We're really blessed to have two fantastic guidance counselors in the 7th and 8th grade, and they work together to develop the advisory sort of curriculum. So as an advisor, and one of the advisors, Katie's an advisor, most of the teachers are, our role is really to welcome our guys every morning, check in with them on occasion during the day, and really get to know them, make sure that somebody knows them well. And that could be this afternoon. I had a long phone call with the mother of one of my advisees, because he's finding it just hard this year with everything that's going on in the world. And so we were working together to try to figure out, okay, what can we do to sort of get some wins for him and make him feel more comfortable and optimistic about what's going forward. But then the guidance counselors come in two ways. One is to provide a lot of support if a student is really struggling, whether that could be academically or socio-emotionally, something going on at home, something going on at school with his friendships, but also to give a well thought out, well sort of defined curriculum for our advisory sessions every Monday, so that we can, it helps in the advisory session to build the sort of environment that we can have at times some difficult conversations about adolescent issues and societal issues, but also at times just to sort of have some fun with the boys so that they can be ready for what they need to do next.
Katie, when we were meeting, just to go over some of the topics for our conversation tonight, the meeting ended right at 12:30, and you had a student meeting. Can you share a little bit about that student reaching out and
Yeah, so the student that Father Nolan is talking about was actually he's in his remote week, and so he, as a 7th grader, had taken the initiative to say, I'd love to review this topic with you. Can we set up a meeting? And so watching as the students come in, some in 7th grade are ready to make that email or that connection right away and say, I need a little bit of help. But we also help them build those skills if they don't come in willing to do that. So I think just those quick check-ins of even being able to hop on Zoom and share a screen and look at a piece of work not only helps form connections with individual students, but also helps reinforce for them, oh yes, of course, you're here. We want to make sure that you do well here. We want to provide the support that you need to do well here. So it's nice to see them come in different places. Again, some of them are ready to do that right at the beginning, and some of them need more coaching. But that's part of the joy of being a teacher, is meeting them where they are and helping them get where they want to go.
I love some of the programs that our guidance counselors have for our students in terms of coaching, and the students really take to. Maybe you could speak to some of those programs, Bob, in terms of organization and.
Yeah, we have 7th and 8th grade boys, so we have a lot of kids that seem to have troubles with organization at times. And our guidance counselor, we do a lot with organization at the beginning of the year anyways, but then our guidance counselors throughout the year will do some things. We call them organization workshops, call them organization boot camp. And sometimes that's just during a flex period, bringing guys together, kind of organizing their binder, organizing their online folders, in a typical year, helping them to organize their locker. And then other times we have some guys that really just need one-on-one support with that. The boy who comes in, his backpack is just exploding papers all over the place. And they're very good at helping and realizing that there's not one strategy that works with every boy about organization. So helping them out with that. So organization's one. Other guys, it might be they've done a nice group for an introverts group, kids who maybe don't necessarily like all the noise sometimes and want to get together in a little more quiet space. and do some things. They have some programs for boys that might have recently suffered a loss, or boys whose, there's some crisis going on in the family at home. So both they do individual work as well as work with groups on that.
Great. Well, we have some questions. Thank you, Esther. Are parents, this is an enrollment question, a great question. Are parents supposed to attend the Arrupe Eagle for a Day? And two, thanks for asking. Great question. It's really just for the students. So the parent can kind of get the student set up for that virtual experience that starts at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays for our virtual Eagle for a Day. And a parent can be kind of nearby, but it's really focused solely to give our prospective Eagles an experience where they go through a few mini lessons, see what lunch is like, see what kind of great lunch options we have. Speaking of, what do you hear over here in terms of good lunch options that just for any students who are interested?
Today there were kids having pizza. That was a good option today. They were telling me the pasta was good yesterday. The burrito, sometimes you have Taco Tuesdays. But also, there's some kids that go right for the fruit and right for the salad. And then because we have lunch kind of early, I've noticed this year particularly, it seems there's a lot of cereal buying. Cereal and milk gets going. So some guys are more having a second breakfast at 11 in the morning rather than going straight for lunch at that point in time.
Now, I think these days, a lot of us have been kind of going for some of those pizza options and ice cream and extra food. But why don't you tell us a little bit about our recess options, too? That's so important for our boys and for learning.
Recess is the best. The boys get to go outside. They have recess right after lunch for a brief time. They'll go outside, and they have been really creative this year with all of they obviously have to have space in between them, but they're sort of creating these games outside anyway, just getting some of that energy out. And then in the middle of the afternoon, right before that last period class, they have another chance to go outside, another chance to shake off some of that energy, get some fresh air. And it's just great to see them come back in refreshed for last period. The difference between last period classes when breaks didn't exist and last period classes when they do, it's really nice to be responsive to what they need and to get them outside.
So for any prospective Eagles listening, 2 recesses doesn't get better than that. We talk a lot here about BC High, Boston, and beyond. And when you think of boys really learning well in project-based groups, or when we can travel more frequently in the city, can you share just a little bit about some of the field trips that we would go on?
Yeah, with the 7th graders, one of the big things they do throughout the year in their team classes, and it sort of centralizes in social studies, but English and science participate in it too, is a city project where they're really looking at how people live in cities, what are the challenges of living in a city, what are the benefits of living in a city, what are the ways to make cities better. And what they'll do at the beginning of the year, and again, we're not doing that this year, but we hope to get back to more normal life in the future. But they'll jump on the subway, head downtown, and check out different elements of the city actually by being there physically and looking at how different parts of the city are put together, how they're good for pedestrians, what's beneficial about one part of the city versus another part of the city, and start to form in their own head, hey, what do I like about different places? How can I make my perfect city? Which they'll do, and they'll make a design towards the end of the year. In our 8th grade, when they're studying civics, they've gone to the Moakley Courthouse, done some simulation and some work there. We go over to the Ted Kennedy Institute for the Senate, where they've done some great Senate simulations over there. And then occasionally we'll go to other places in Boston, take advantage of some of the museums we can get to pretty easily on the T. And but again, wanting to make sure they feel part of the city.
And Katie, you also have taught in the high school. You're teaching in high school now as well. And when we think of those different skills and the character formation and the academic foundation, what have you noticed in terms of our students as they move their way into the high school and beyond? How well prepared are they?
I think they're exceptionally well prepared. And of course, as a person who taught them French in middle school and now is teaching them French in high school, I feel like I get to say that. But really, as far as their whole character goes, we really are trying to form them into eventually the graduate at graduation, which is a sort of a BC High idea that I'm sure will come up in other events. But we're trying to make sure that they are open to growth. And I think that's a big thing, to make sure that they're pursuing that academic excellence. And it's really nice to see their trajectory. I love running into juniors and seniors in the hallway and seeing what they're involved in, what they've been willing to take on, what they've been willing to pursue. And I'd love to think that the years that they spent in Arrupe were a part in helping them make those choices.
Well, it's been so great to have a conversation with you, Bob, and with Katie, to talk about what it's like. How do we create a culture of how we educate boys here at BC High? And so if you're just joining us now, we're going to start talking to a couple of folks from our high school. But if you're joining us late, these videos will be available on BC High's Facebook page, so you can view the recordings there. So Bob, thank you so much for joining us. You're now a member of the 3 Timers Club, and we're getting close to the 5 Timers Club for Facebook Live. So thanks so much. And Katie, thanks for taking time. As we were getting ready, Katie was answering emails from students, and so thanks for taking time to meet with our prospective families.
Have a good night.
All right, we'll see you. So that was great. It was great to have that half hour, or maybe a little bit shorter, with our Arrupe folks, Mr. Hamlet, the vice principal of our Arrupe division, and Katie McKiernan, who teaches math and French, has taught religion, and helps with a lot of our Manresa, our campus ministry activities for our 7th and 8th graders. And so before we continue the conversation focusing on educating boys in our high school, I'd like to just share with you a few upcoming events that you can see on our scroll. Again, my name is Father Nolan, and we're talking tonight about educating boys. But if you have boys that are thinking about BC High, whether that's for our middle school, our 7th and 8th grade, or for our high school, we have a few great events to think about. So our virtual Eagle for a Day is a great experience, and it starts at 2 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. And your son will experience a day in the life of a 7th grader, going alongside Aiden and seeing what his day is like, with mini lessons, finding out more about what lunch is like. Or you'll be with Derek in our 9th grade and finding out about mini lessons, having a conversation with one of us on the enrollment team throughout, and then learning more about co-curriculars and about sports and other ways to get involved here at BC High. So that's a great option, our virtual Eagle for a Day. We'll continue these Facebook Live events. We're going to skip next Wednesday for Veterans Day, but be back and talking about athletics on November 18th on that Wednesday. Athletics in Arrupe in our middle school, and athletics in our high school. And we'd really like to invite you to our virtual open house, which is this weekend, Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And if you'd like to get there a little bit early, we'll be offering a live stream mass, and I'll be saying that mass. So no pressure, but if you'd like to join us for mass as well, that will start at 9:15. But we'll open the doors, our virtual doors, to our open house at 10, and you'll have the chance to take a tour. You'll have a chance to ask a coach a question or a teacher a question. Our principal and our president will be at different tables. You'll learn from students and family and alumni. We're going to have virtual floors with virtual tables, and you'll have live conversations. We'll have performances as well. So you'll get a great sense of what BC High has to offer.